I've been doing a lot of walks with my dogs and putting some stuff up on social media. And the first thing I get usually from the people is, how is your dog so under control? Now it's not anything like I was doing 20 years ago, with the competitive stuff and the protection stuff and the police canine stuff. I'm not doing that anymore. This is just my two pet dogs. Like Hadouken's just retired. He's a rug. But with Betsy and Ackright, they're just my dogs. I love them. These are my girls, And so I try to take them out and just mind my business. People want to let their dogs socialize with my dogs when their dogs are exhibiting what I would call antisocial behavior. But it's not antisocial because they're not going away from people. What it is it's aggressively social. They're barrier frustrated typically, and they want to get to my dogs. Now, whatever happens from there, that's a bad way to start socializing. It's not good for people to just jump you and say, "What's up? What are you doing? What are you doing?" It's not good. That's not a good way to socialize. So who's responsible for the socialization? The owner. Who teaches the owner? The trainer. What is the trainer taught by the veterinary behaviorist or the professional trainer or their mentor about socialization? There's this huge problem in this country where people have to bring their dogs together. They're compelled to bring their dogs together and let them socialize. We're talking about dog parks, play dates, daycares. It's just crazy. Now, we've neutered and spayed our dogs before they go to play dates, dog parks, and daycares, right? So that sexual component of making more puppies is largely off the table because that's multiplication socialization, and we don't want that. It would create a lot more fights if dogs were intact, but that's not a deal breaker. They can become territorial. They can become possessive. They can become afraid. And so when you put them into that WWE Royal Rumble cage match, sometimes it's just fake and everybody's like, "Oh, he took a spill and this." But sometimes that shit gets real, like to the point of death. I'm not bringing my dog into a place where it can learn how to socialize like it's in the WWE, or it could potentially be, the percentages are, it could be deadly for the dog. Or my dog could kill another dog. Because that's the problem too. You've got size mismatches. Why do you think they have small dog parks up to the side? Because they know it's dangerous. Why is the fence up? Because the dogs would just take off. It's a place where people can go and call it socialization, but even the owners, they go to be social, or they go to be social, and as I've seen a million times in the dog parks throughout my life, is that they can get ugly with each other. They can get nasty with each other. My dog's this and my dog's that. People, these dogs are socializing the way dogs shouldn't socialize. It's like a pack mentality. It's like a free-for-all. It's a WWE match. But we call it socializing. Well, the other problem with that kind of socializing is that it creates a powerful want away from the control, clarity, trust, and respect that the dog should have for the owner. It really does create a dopamine dump because the dog wants to get to the dog park, the dog wants to get to daycare, the dog wants to get to the play date. So they're socializing like a kid who's very anxious about getting to Disney World or Chuck E. Cheese or to a WWE match. When they're like, "I can't wait, I can't, oh, that's bad. Now, when you're pulling back on that leash, not correcting, restraining, you're building that desire. The dog's putting in more effort, put it in four-wheel low, drop a gear, and start going, and start barking. Get that head. That's weight pull. Get that head down. That's weight pull. That's how you build drive and bite work. So you're building this social drive out of control. And that's a large part of why we have a problem with dogs today, is because people are hyper socializing their dog. They'll even take dogs that are antisocial or neutrally but shy social and put them in that melee, and they want to be left alone. They do not want to be fucked with. And so they learn in daycare, dog parks, play dates, how to and back off another dog. Well, there's a good chance they could bring that behavior to you when they want you to back off, because dogs can extrapolate. Credit to Dr. Harrison. They can extrapolate how to use a tool in one situation or another. But that's the problem, right? Because of the fence, because of the leash, because of the collar, and because of the resistance on the leash, the dog is working very, very, very hard, like it would be at a gym, to get to a point where it wants to get into this place faster. It's like an anxiety attack. And then giving your kid like a Red Bull and a kazoo and wondering why he's making noise after he's been anxious. Like you don't socialize an event with that kind of anxiety, because that's not manners. That's not mannerly. The obedience should be life. That's socializing to me. Not getting a flexi lead and letting the dog. And I know you guys have heard this all before, and people don't give a shit. They're like, no, I'm socializing. Well, the problem with the way that people are socializing now, or socializing their dogs now, is that it's bad for the dog. They're doing it 100% for them. For them. They want to belong. They want to put their highlight reel on Face, YouTube, Instabook, or whatever it is. You want to put that up there. Here we are at the dog park, selfie, duck lips. You know, that's also getting social drama involved in social media, because if there is an event, and there will be at the dog park, play date, or daycare, someone's going to grab a camera. And now that socializing that's bad goes to human socializing in a poor way, and then it goes on social media. Now people get outraged socially, who weren't even there, and say, see, that's why I don't have that breed of dog. That's why I would never bring my dog into that particular dog park, because Karen goes there and her dog is notorious for dry humping. He dry humped an armadillo the other day. Like, it just mind your business. That's what manners is, right? And socializing, neutrally social. How you doing? What's up? That's it. Walking past somebody, how you doing? Good. There's only one answer to that. Good. Other than, if you're not going to say good to me, I don't want to hear anything. Well, Chris, I've got a corn on the inside of my ass cheek. It's supposed to be on my foot. I don't know. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that. If I'm walking my dog, what's up? What's up? How you doing? How you doing? Head nod, wave, whatever. But I don't want to stop and go, let's see if they like each other. That's how you start dog fights. But it's the human's anthropomorphic idea projected onto the dog. And daycare markets for that, because they don't want your dog to be bored at home. My dogs are home all day. My dogs are mentally stimulated. Now let's talk about the difference between socializing physically and socializing mentally. The mental comes in when you have to respect boundaries. The dog isn't thinking about how fast can I get to what I want. It's thinking, I want that, but I can't leave heel until I'm dismissed. I can't leave sit until I'm dismissed. Now, when you see people and they're yelling commands at their dogs while their dogs are pulling and they're following, going forward with the leash pulled like a bungee cord, and they're saying, sit, sit, slow down, slow down. You're teaching your dog or socializing your dog to completely have no value in your commands. Zero value. Because the dog is like, you're so full of shit. Like, you don't want to take your kids out and socialize them at 5 or 6 and you go, come here, and they go, fuck you. And you go, isn't he great? Isn't he great? But there's people doing that, which is really crazy. But what do you think that kid's going to grow into? You know, we talk about bullying all the time. Bullying, it's huge. Bullying. But everything's bullying. It's bullying. You're bullying me. They're bullying. People, if you have ever met anyone who understands dog fighting, not the street dog fighting, but the old time gentleman's game of dog fighting. Like, I met Lou Colby many times. Look him up. Colby's Book of the American Pit Bull Terrier. His dad brought him over from Ireland and England. And then it was like a gentleman's game. Like, my aunt lived in Plastow, New Hampshire, and I saw in his book, which is right next to Newburyport, Mass., Plastow, New Hampshire, that there used to be top hat and tails dog fights every Sunday after church at the town hall. Well, my Uncle Paul was an archaeologist, and he was very big in that town and in the state. And there was a giant oak tree that had been in Plastow for like 500 or 600 years. I don't know, it was a big tree. So they had to cut it down, but they took a cross section of it and somebody etched or burned or did something really cool. It's still there. You can see it in the Plastow, New Hampshire town hall. Like, George Washington was in New Hampshire when this ring on the tree was growing. This was a drought. Like, there's a historical documentation all the way through. Well, when I look in Colby's book, there's the town hall, just in the 1800s. And it was a gentleman's game. Well, how you built the dog for the fight was you take a puppy and you teach it to roll. Rolling is how they learn to fight, but they don't have that drive yet because they're not mature. Some of them are crazy from birth, but all dogs are like that. And what they do is they learn how to spar. That's how any animal learns how to spar, how to hunt, how to mate. They just are let go into the world with all these drives, and they run into others of their species, and they start to wrestle. Weakness draws aggression. Strength repels aggression. That's how bullies are built. That's how victims are built. But the thing is if you have a dog who's pressing another dog and it doesn't want the socialization that way, and it backs up into a corner, flight is gone now. Flight is gone. You're left with two other F's: fight or fold. And if you fold, that can be really, really a bad place to be in. That's not a good idea. So people don't understand that what's allowed will continue, but also it will continue to higher levels if you continue to build what's allowed drive. Because if you have a dog like that who's wanting to go for a walk to be social, let's go for a walk. Dog goes, oh. You want to go for a walk? Yeah. So I have 3 dogs in my house. I just said that none of them are moving because I never ask them if they want to go for a walk. We just go for walks. And people say, well, Chris, that doesn't sound like, okay, all right, fair enough. You get your kids and put them to bed on Christmas Eve and go, are you ready for Christmas? Do you know what I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what I got you. Oh, I should tell you. Those kids are going to be on Thorazine big gulps and Xanax salt licks by the time they're 9. Building drive is building drive. Just because you're unaware of it and you've put this moniker of this false label of socializing, because it's not false. That's the trick. That's the problem. It's not false. You are socializing. If you're around someone else, you're socializing. That's what you're doing. Walking by. How you doing? Good. That's it. Even if you pass each other, just walking, that's a social interaction. So we take this term that really didn't mean anything when I was a kid. It just meant manners. Like, just your dog better have manners. Even neighborhood dogs had manners. They knew not to go in the store. They knew to wait outside. But now dogs are socialized to the point where they think that they can do what they do in the dog park or on the leash or play dates or daycares anywhere. Remember, they're in the contained WWE cage match situation. Does that make sense? They're not aware. If the fence wasn't there, you're fucked. That's a big deal. But even pulling into a place, out of the house, into the car, out of the car, when a dog sees another dog in your, so let me ask you this. If you have a dog with barrier frustration and you put your dog in the car and you start driving down the road and you've got the AC on, it's summertime, and the dog sees a bunch of other dogs or one dog, does your dog go just wants to get out? See, a lot of the times that's not aggression, that's frustration. But frustration leads to aggression. That's why they call it barrier frustration. But now people say reactivity and this. Listen, your dog's being a dick because it doesn't have manners. And you're being an asshole because you're not teaching your dog to have manners. So when you go and you create these dogs that are just barrier frustrated, entitled, and they pull, that's what socialization is today. It should not be that way. Manners, heel, sit, down, stay, come. Burn your flexi leads, burn your chuckets. Stop entertaining the dog. Stop trying to be the dog's best friend and be its leader. Be the boss. Don't be a dick. See, I think people don't understand, like, the kinder they are to dogs, the more the dog mistakes their kindness for weakness. That's not the dog being a dick, that's you being stupid. And why is it stupid? Because if you just look, if you just saw what's happening with the dog, what they're doing, movement is dialogue. What's allowed will continue. Do not bring a positive reinforcer into a behavior you never want to see again. Those things that are dogsmanship are connected. They're all connected. And dog parks, daycares, play dates are a bad idea for dogsmanship. You won't see a dog man going into any of those. You will not. You will not. You will not. Ask the best dog trainer you know if they take their dog to the dog park. It's a money-making idea based in guilt and socialization. It's very profitable. It's very lucrative. Even dog walkers. Oh, I got to get the dog out to socialize it with a bunch of other dogs. Oh my God, it looks like a riot sometimes where they're just trying to kill each other. Bunch of frustrated dogs on a walk. What could go wrong? See, socializing is manners. Like I'm going to keep coming back to it over and over again. Socializing is, what am I supposed to do in this social situation? So if you go to the White House and you go for a dinner, there's going to be protocols. There's going to be manners all the way in that fucking building. There's going to be protocols before you get there. If you go to a store, now that's becoming less and less of a good example, but if you go to a store, there's laws you can't break. You have to know how to act. And we have dog owners who are teaching their dogs through bad advice and through ignorance and selfishness how to teach their dogs to socialize to be Jeffrey Dahmer or to be a spoiled brat, an unbelievably spoiled brat. Now, see, the problem with that kind of socialization is you're not usually going to have the problem when it's happening. You have the problem when you try to stop it. Well, Chris, I got to get the energy out. Okay, so are we getting the energy out or are we socializing? Pick one. So let me ask you this. Would you rather walk a mile by yourself or do your taxes by yourself? And all you smartasses that are accountants and stuff, shut up. What are you gonna be more tired after you do? If you do your taxes, you're gonna be like, oh my God, that's mental fatigue, mental socialization. What can't I do? What shouldn't I do? What won't I do? Nope, not today. The sky's the limit. My dog is the most important dog on the planet, and I've got to get it out and socialize it, and I've got to get it out and do my thing for this dog. But that's not for the dog. That's for you. That's for you. Think about this. I'll try to find the video. I don't know if I can find it. I had a client who had twins, and she had a American Bulldog that growled at my kid when it was 8 months old, and my kids were young, and she wanted to go the socialization route. That's what her other trainer was telling her. You got to do this, you got to do that. Well, the dog was too young at 6 months old to have the kind of responsibility and coddling after it got afraid from the people at the daycare or her at the dog park. So the dog became afraid of things. So it's not a nature thing, it's a nurture thing. So by socializing, this dog decided, I'm going to be afraid of things. He's put over his head way too quick. He should be being taught by people so he can understand the rules of human society, because he lives in a human-controlled, dominated world. So he growled at my son. I said, you shouldn't go to daycare and this and that. And then she got pregnant with twins. And she said, I'm going to do the training, but I think I'm still going to go to do the socialization because I want him to get over this fear he has of kids. And I said, listen, how do you think he got the fear? And people can't connect it. They see the dog park is Chuck E. Cheese. Let's go and let him run around. The problem is there's kids that are way too young to have that kind of freedom. Not the kids that are too young and make stupid decisions like lighting the ball pit on fire or taking a shit on the slide. Those kids are kids. They're, God bless. I'm talking about the kid that's overwhelmed, the kid that's shy, the kid that's not confident. They come up with fight, flight, or freeze because they're left on their own. And that's what this dog did. So I told her that, and she said, oh my God, I'm pregnant with twins. And I said, well, let me ask you a question. Would you take this dog now and put it in not put it in, but have a side-by-side baby carriage with your twins, and then put the leash around the carriage? And she said, no, I would never do that. Those kids would be on a Nantucket sleigh ride. I said, yeah, that's what socializing at dog parks, daycares, and play dates gets you. By letting the dog, you want to go for a walk? You're pumping this thing up. Now you got two babies, and your dog ain't the baby anymore. That dog's going to catch a bad one. That dog's going to get zapped, pronged, or medicated, choked, yelled at. You are a dick if you do that. So I said, listen, let's work the dog's brain. Let's teach it that knowledge replaces fear. Let's teach it who's the teacher, who's the student. Let's teach it area of influence. Let's teach it manners. Let's socialize the dog so it's equipped to understand how to deal with things socially. She kind of got it, and then we worked for a while. And I have to find it, where I said, what made you change? She goes, I got babies. And so this dog who was out of control and growling at kids is now, she wrote me the nicest letter too. It's really neat. But this dog, absolutely no problem walking, not a problem, would consistently walk next to the carriage with no leash, and oftentimes would stay with the kids, just tell the dog to stay next to the carriage while she unloaded the car, and who's gonna fuck with them with a 90-pound American Bulldog who's trained? Now you could come up and pet him. He won't move. Good boy, he stays there. That's work. That's mental work. And it's emotional work on the owner's side, because you have to stop feeding them the addiction. You have to stop pumping them up. You have to stop socializing poorly. Socializing poorly is only going to get the dog burned up with an e-collar, pronged, choked, redirected with food and very confused, or medicated or killed. And it's a very hard thing to talk about because nobody wants to talk about common sense now. Nobody does. But if you think of it that way, if you think of manners, you know, I've run into a lot of people over the last 4 years. And I remember this one lady out in Minnesota who had the most well-behaved children I've ever seen. And she's the best mom. And in one of the videos I had said, what would you do if your kid just gave you the finger and said, fuck you? And she said to me, and this is a very soft lady, but you can watch that mama's face. You don't talk about that mama's face. She said, it would just never happen. Why? Because she socialized the kids properly. She brought them up in a very beautiful way. They're going to be very successful kids. They're wonderful kids. They're wonderful kids because she cares enough to socialize them with manners, clarity, trust, and respect. Once we got that principle over to her and her dogs, that she could actually parent, oh my God, that was it. That was it. She saw that dog ownership, dog training, socialization, anything to do with the dog is parenting, not grandparenting. And so the dogs get better. The dogs get so much better, but you got to know how to do it. And I'll tell you too, it's not fair to jack a dog up like that for a couple years or a couple months and then go to an e-collar trainer and say, all right, light them up. Yeah, of course you're going to get a result. Of course. But there's going to be a hangover that they don't tell you about or they don't know about. To get those results, I created this. I need it stopped now. That's what you're paying these people for. Yeah, we'll stop it. Absolutely, ma'am. Is that all you need? We have a daycare. It's just like creating viruses on the computer to have the computer company that makes the antivirus. It's just it's just, what are we doing? Be accountable for your own dog. Like, just no, we're not doing it. See, and that's been made very hard now by people who, if you correct your dog in public, they're, how dare you? They don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand. That moment is so critical to not let that dog get away with that socially. Or what they don't understand is you're trying to work with your dog and they let their dog run right up on you. That happened to me the other day with 3 dogs. Came up with me and Betsy, just 2 German Shepherds and a Lab Pit Bull. One of them got it in the throat. Boom, right in the throat. I'm old, man. I'm not going down. I've been torn to pieces by dogs. There's no way. And I'm going to protect my sweet baby Betsy. You ain't going to get that. And I don't want her learning how to fight. Because the last thing I need is a pit bull biting a German Shepherd, and everybody's like, well, it's a pit bull, you know. It's in their blood. Well, here's the problem with that. You put me, because you had your 3 dogs off leash with 0 control, and they came bombing up on me rather aggressively, and I said, could you call your dog, please? And you just looked the other way. When your dog took a shot at my leg, I turned around and put my size 13.5 right in that dog's throat. Guess what that dog did? It went back to mama. Because if you're not going to correct your dog and your dog thinks it's going to correct me, I'm going to correct your dog. That's where we are, people, is that what I did was self-defense and what I think is good socialization. What she did was reckless, poor socialization. And these dogs don't have any commands that they reliably obey for their owner. People have to have the e-collar, they have to have the leash. And even when they do, it doesn't always work because there's no substitute for clarity, trust, and respect, for parenting, dogsmanship. That's what we're talking about. Socialization is up to you. Don't believe the hype. Everybody who talks about socialization now talks about it in levels of dopamine and fatigue and exercise, but they're not talking about the mental cost of that. That side effect may cause anal leakage, small genitals, you know, whatever those weird side effects are that everybody ignores now on their medications. I mean, listen to those side effects. Well, those happen with socialization too. They do. It's just that people refuse to think about it that way. No, the science said, what science? It's not science. It's marketed as science by people who have sold out in the science. There's bad scientists, you know. You ever see a James Bond movie? Evil scientists all the time. It just happened recently too. I won't get into that, but yeah, there's evil scientists, but they want the money, and it's not a conspiracy theory. It's like, take any of the socialization advice, and I'll go, I have a question. Excuse me. What are the side effects? Oh, there's absolutely no side effects. It's all love. Here comes a car. Framp, framp. That's it. That's a side effect. It's called a Buick. Side effects may include loss of control that you never had, barrier frustration, dog aggression, leash reactivity, transference, disrespect, disobedience. I mean, the list goes on and on. Side effects may include, because there's common sense to everything we do with dogs, or there should be. There's not anymore. It's all done from an emotional, profitable, egotistical social media standpoint. And I know I sound like the old white guy, get off my lawn, but I am the old white guy. And it's important to me to just keep saying this to people so that someone who's following all that bullshit advice may go, wait, did you hear this? That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Like, it's like sometimes when you take a drug addict or an alcoholic and they call it a moment of clarity, right? Where an alcoholic will have a moment of clarity and they go, I need help. I got to stop doing this. How can you be doing the right thing that's recommended over and over by your trainer, by the daycare people, by the veterinary behaviors, by your vet, socialize them, and still have all the fucking problems you have? Because you're being the grandparent. I'm going to take him to the park. I'm going to buy him a toy. I'm going to do this. You're not being the parent. Parents have rules that are taught. You take the opportunity while they're young to teach them what they cannot do. You cannot put your finger in the electrical socket. You cannot put the fork in the toaster. You cannot throw a radio plugged in into a bathtub where your little sister is. You cannot throw the cat into the dryer and turn it on. No. I'll tell you what we're not going to do. We're not going to socialize like that. But when you have most of the people that own dogs believing the opposite of that, then the majority rules, and you're now a bad person for doing proper dogsmanship in public. Do what you're going to do. I'll be dead, and you guys will be dealing with the big problem, which may include you can't have dogs anymore, or I don't know. It's a crazy, crazy time out there. But just put a little thought into it. That's all I'm saying. Put a little thought, like, oh, you know what? Let me look at that. What did Chris say? Let me just think about that. Just think about it. Just think about it. You'll understand more from the dog's perspective, like the dog's eye point of view. Who looks at that? Everybody's telling you how to fix things or get results or how to hold your camera so you can film your dog with no back legs or a face and make a lot of money from pity. How do you get people to see the dog for what it really is? I don't know. They see the dog the way they want to see it. And they think the dog is the cause of the problem, when in all actuality